The slam of the apartment door shook the picture frames. "They're not my problem anymore," Linda said, her jaw tight as she zipped her duffel and marched out. The twins, two pink-faced 3-month-olds, howled on the bed like tiny sirens. Peter Parker, not the superhero, just a guy from Cleveland who used to clock in at the auto parts plant, stood there with a pink slip in his wallet, spit up on his t-shirt, and no idea what tomorrow looked like. "Please," he called after her, voice breaking. "If not for me, for them." Linda didn't turn around. "I didn't sign up for this," she shot back, and the hallway swallowed her footsteps. For a long beat, the only sound was the twins crying and the steady tick of the stove clock. Peter scooped them both, Jules in the crook of his right arm, Sophie in his left, and sat in the lumpy recliner they'd rescued from a curb on Lorraine Avenue. He rocked until the house quieted. "I don't have much," he whispered into soft baby hair that smelled like milk, "but I've got you, and I swear I'll be the best dad in the whole world." Morning came with hunger and cold reality. No formula, no cash, no job. He strapped the girls into a second-hand double stroller someone on the neighborhood buy-nothing group had left on the porch and pushed out into a gray Lake Erie wind. The West Side Market was already awake, delivery trucks backing up, vendors calling out orders, the smell of coffee and onions and fresh bread. "Need a hand truck?" the produce guy asked, eyeing the twins. "I need work," Peter said. "Anything." By 8 a.m., he was hustling, hauling crates of sweet corn, stacking boxes of tomatoes, wiping his forehead with the sleeve of his hoodie. Every hour or so, he'd park by the back wall, pop bottles, change diapers on a folded blanket, murmur, "We're okay, ladies. Daddy's got you." Some folks stared. A few smiled. An older woman in a wool coat pressed a folded 20 into his palm. "For the babies," she said, eyes soft. "You're doing good." Not everyone was kind. A guy in a shiny jacket snorted, "Maybe think about responsibility before you make two of them, bro." Peter didn't look up. He had freight to move and daughters to feed. At dusk, he counted crumpled bills with shaking hands. It wasn't a fortune, but it was something. He swung into a CVS, stood under the fluorescent glare, reading labels he'd never had to read. Powdered infant formula, diaper rash cream, little gas drops the pharmacist swore by. He paid, swallowed the knot in his throat, and carried the bag home like it was gold. Days blurred into a rhythm nobody saw coming. Up at 5. Bottles, burps, onesies. Market by 7. Haul, feed, change, repeat. Back home to the small kitchen where a dollar store calendar hung crooked. Baths in the sink, lullabies to the hum of the fridge. When he ran out of strength, he borrowed some from the memory of Linda's last words and turned it into fuel. On the third Monday, a voice called from the sidewalk as he locked the door. "Peter!" It was Miss Carroll from 2B, a retired cafeteria lady with kind eyes and a floral housecoat that never seemed to change. "Let me keep the girls today. Son's too mean for little cheeks." He hesitated, a hand on the stroller handle. Every cell in his body wanted to say no. Trust was a luxury he hadn't been afforded lately. Miss Carroll seemed to read his mind. "I raised 3 of my own and 2 grandbabies," she said. "I know how to swaddle better than YouTube. You go earn. I'll rock and sing." Peter looked down at Jules and Sophie, 2 sets of blue-brown eyes blinking up at him, unaware of how fragile their world was. He exhaled. "Okay," he said quietly, buckling their blankets tighter before lifting them into Miss Carroll's arms. "Thank you." "Go on," she smiled. We'll be right here when you get back. He pushed the empty stroller toward the market, feeling both lighter and terrified. All day he moved faster, hands blistered, back screaming, mind racing with math he hated. Rent due in 9 days, heat bill sitting in the mail, formula burning through cash like a match. He refused to let panic set the pace. Work did. When he finally climbed the stairs that evening, the apartment smelled faintly of baby lotion and something warm from Miss Carroll's slow cooker. The twins were clean, content, and giggling at the ceiling fan like it was a carnival ride. Peter's shoulders dropped for the first time in weeks. "See?" Miss Carroll said, easing a sleeping Sophie into his arms. "Told you." He smiled, a little too tired to speak, and nodded. As the twins settled against his chest, he thought, maybe, just maybe, we're going to make it. He had no way of knowing that one neighbor's kindness, one hard promise, and one ordinary day on the market floor were the first bricks in a road that would lead his girls far beyond Cleveland and straight into a choice that would test everything he believed about family, forgiveness, and what it means to be rich. The next morning broke with the rattle of a city bus and a thin winter sun. Gabe cinched the baby carrier to his chest, one twin tucked up front, the other in a sling at his side, and whispered, "We're going to figure this out, kiddo. Both of you." He slid the stroller into the trunk of his dented Corolla, grabbed an old dolly he'd borrowed from the landlord, and drove to the Saturday farmers market under the overpass. He asked for day work at every stall. Most folks blinked at the sight of a single dad with 2 infants, then glanced away. Finally, a produce guy in a flannel cap nodded toward a mountain of crates. "You load. I'll pay cash. $20 an hour till we're packed out." Gabe tucked the stroller beside the apples, rocked it with his foot, and got to hauling. He learned to move with a rhythm: stack, strap, roll, and pause to mix formula when little mouths puckered. A few shoppers smiled and dropped singles in the stroller cup holder. One woman sneered as she passed. Should have thought about diapers before the fun. Gabe swallowed hard and kept working. By noon, the twins had drifted off, cheeks warm under knit beanies. A grandmother in a church hat stopped and pressed a 20 into Gabe's hand. "For the babies," she said. He looked down at the bill, then up at her soft, serious eyes. "Thank you, ma'am. I won't forget this." He didn't. That night, he swung by a CVS, leaned over the counter, and asked the pharmacist for help stretching a dollar. The man wrote out a list: powdered formula, gas drops, diaper rash cream, then slid over coupon booklets like contraband. "You're doing great, Dad," he said quietly. Gabe stood in the parking lot under the humming lights, loaded the trunk, and let himself breathe for the first time all day. Days turned into weeks, then a routine. Load the car in the dark, market at dawn, side gigs in the afternoon, moving couches for students, delivering flowers on Valentine's, clearing snow with a cheap plastic shovel when the weather turned. He ate peanut butter on stale bread and told the girls he wasn't hungry anyway. Some nights, the radiator clanked loud enough to make him laugh. "Your lullaby," he'd whisper, bouncing the twins until his arms went numb. Their neighbor across the hall, Ms. Colette, silver braid, house shoes, an apron that always smelled like nutmeg, knocked one morning with a shy smile. "Let me keep the girls while you hustle. Sun's too mean for baby skin." Gabe hesitated, then handed over diaper bags labeled Juliet and Sophie in black Sharpie. When he came home, the apartment was warm with the scent of cinnamon toast, and his daughters giggled from Colette's lap, faces clean. hair soft. "I won't forget this," he said again, meaning it more each time. Years rolled by in shoe sizes and report cards. The twins turned their tiny fists into pencil grips, their nap times into library hours. They wore thrift store hoodies and posted straight A certificates to the fridge with free pizza magnets. Gabe saved every one, tucking them into a shoebox he labeled Our Wins. Senior year, envelopes began to arrive, thick ones. The girls burst into the kitchen waving acceptance letters, cheeks flushed, eyes wild. "Full admission to state for pre-med," Jules shouted. "And I got into River City's honors program," Sophie added, laughing and crying at once. Gabe played it big, strutted around the living room with a mixing spoon like a microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my future doctors," he boomed, and they fell onto the couch in a heap of joy. After they went to bed, he spread the financial aid printouts across the table. Numbers stacked like brick walls: tuition, fees, housing, books. Even with part scholarships, even with loans, the gap was a canyon. He counted his savings twice. It was barely a plank. He tried to sleep on it, but the ceiling fan blades kept slicing the same thought. You promised. Around 2 a.m., he slid to the floor beside his bed so his knees wouldn't wake the girls, folded his hands, and spoke to the quiet. "God, I'm not asking for me. I'm tapped out. They did everything right. Please show me what to do." He didn't hear Jules pad down the hall and stand in the doorway, or Sophie sit up on the couch and wipe her eyes. They heard him, though. The steadiness he'd used to rock them now frayed around the edges. They looked at each other in the faint blue of the TV screen and mouthed the same word, together. Sunday after church, they came home with drive-through fries and a plan. "Dad," Sophie said gently, "if the numbers don't work this fall, we can defer a year. We'll work, save, hit it next time." Jules nodded. "This isn't quitting. It's strategy." Gabe started to protest. He'd rather shovel snow forever than see them delay. But Sophie reached across the table and took his work-rough hands. "You taught us how to fight. Let us fight with you." He closed his eyes, fighting his own tears, and finally nodded. On Monday morning, the twins put on black pants and white tees and walked into Marty's diner on the corner. Chrome stools, coffee rings on laminated menus, the smell of bacon and fresh pie. "You ever wait tables?" Marty asked, skeptical, tugging at his suspenders. Jules smiled. "Not yet, but we learn fast." Sophie added, "And we don't drop trays." They started the next day. Coffee refills and pie slices. Han and Sweetheart. "And you folks doing okay?" Tips stuffed into jars labeled Med School Fund in glitter glue. The girls came home tired and smelling like maple syrup, stacked their cash in neat bundles, and pushed the jar across the table to their dad after dinner. Gabe kissed their foreheads and circled a date on the calendar 1 year from now. "Okay," he said, voice steady again. "We build, one shift at a time." Outside, a freight train rattled the dark, heading somewhere big. Inside, 3 people made a promise. This was just intermission. By spring, the twins had the diner running like a metronome. Jules floated through the booths with coffee pots and easy jokes. Sophie owned the counter, 5 tickets deep, and still remembering who took their eggs over easy. They wiped down Chrome, folded aprons in the break room that smelled like bleach and pancakes, and fed their tip jar, the glitter-glued Med School Fund, like it was a plant that might bloom. Gabe stacked evening gigs when he could, assembling flat-pack furniture, unloading moving trucks, even mowing the softball field behind the middle school for $20 and a Gatorade. Ms. Collette babysat when the girls pulled doubles. I won't forget this, Gabe told her so often she finally laughed and said, then remember me with cobbler, not speeches. One Tuesday, the lunch rush slowed. The jukebox hummed Otis Redding. Jules slid into a booth to catch her breath and felt her foot bump something under the seat. She reached down and pulled out a black leather briefcase, heavy, scuffed at the corners. Soph, she said, lifting it onto the table. Somebody left their life savings. Sophie popped it open just enough to peek. Neat stacks of paper, a blue checkbook, a manila envelope thick with $100 bills, a metal flash drive labeled Price Trust. They snapped it shut like it had teeth. Marty, Sophie hissed, we found this. The owner waddled over, eyebrows up. He glanced at the cash, then the twins, then the door. One of the suits from table 5. They left in a hurry. He ran a hand over his suspenders. Lock it in the office. If anyone calls, I'll send them back. An hour later, a sleek black SUV nose-kissed the curb. A man in his late 50s hurried in. No coat, tie loose. Did anyone see a black case? His voice had that tight thread of panic money can't fix. Jules stood. We've got it. Follow me. She handed it over in Marty's office. He flicked through the contents, exhaled like he'd been underwater, and said, thank you, with the distracted politeness of a man who just dodged a disaster. He was gone before anyone could say, you're welcome. Back on the line, Sophie snorted. Not even a latte, she muttered, and Jules elbowed her, grinning. Easy, Lady Dollars. They forgot about it until the next day. The same SUV returned, slower this time, and the man came in without the frantic eyes. He took off his sunglasses and stuck out his hand. Anthony Price, he said. Most folks call me Tony. Yesterday, I had my head on fire. I didn't even say thank you right. No worries, Jules said. We were just happy to reunite a briefcase with its brief. Tony laughed, suddenly younger. He looked around the diner, at the line of regulars and the glittered tip jar, at the sisters moving like they'd built the place. Whose handwriting is that? He asked, pointing to med school fund. Ours, Sophie said. Deferred a year. We'll get there. Tony's gaze settled on Gabe, who'd just walked in to pick up a to-go meatloaf plate after a yard job, shirt flecked with grass. The way the twins lit up when they saw him told Tony most of what he needed to know. He rocked on his heels. Finish your shift, he said. Humor me after. I want to show you something. An hour later, they followed his SUV 3 blocks over to a corner they always passed and never really saw. A 2-story brick building sat quiet under a faded for-lease banner, big sunlit windows facing the street, the ghost of an old cafe sign still visible in the brick. It's one of ours, Tony said. We bought a portfolio out of foreclosure. This one's been sitting because nobody fit. Jules shoved her hands in her jacket. It's beautiful. Needs work? Sophie added, practical eyes mapping the space through the glass. Tony nodded. My wife, God rest her, ran a bakery before she got sick. Yesterday, that briefcase had the trust documents for our kids. You didn't take a dime. You didn't even take a picture for clout. He reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. My lawyers already think I'm nuts. But I'm not. I'm old enough to know a good bet. Gabe lifted a palm. Sir, we can't. Tony shook his head. I'm not handing you a check. I'm handing you a chance. He pulled a key from the envelope and held it out. 1 year lease at $1. I'll cover basic build out. Tables, chairs, code stuff. You cover sweat. If you make it work, there's an option to buy at a fair number. If you don't, I take the keys back and wish you well. But I think you will. Silence. City noise softened around them. Jules stared at the key like it might vanish. Sophie swallowed. Why us? Because when nobody was watching, you did the right thing, Tony said. And because I miss seeing young people take a swing. They signed in a lawyer's office that smelled like lemon oil and old money. Tony's team slid papers across, explained options and clauses, and pressed a gold-embossed folder into their hands. On the sidewalk afterward, Jules hugged it like a newborn. Gabe stood very still, then covered his face with his hands and laughed. One startled, broken laugh that turned into tears he didn't even try to hide. They drove straight to the market, found him where he always was, beside a stack of watermelons, Dolly leaning against his hip. We need you, Sophie said, grabbing his sleeve. Come see. When they got to the corner, Jules pushed the key into his palm. Ours, she whispered. Gabe didn't trust his voice. He stared through the glass at the dust motes dancing in a shaft of sun and saw past them. Saw coffee mugs, line cooks, a chalkboard menu in Jules's messy handwriting, Sophie scolding him for sneaking pie. He turned to his daughters. Okay, he said, and this time when he said it, it sounded like a vow. Let's build the kind of place I wanted to take you to when I couldn't. That night, they spread graph paper on the table. They sketched booths and a pastry case, argued about names. Double shot? Jules offered. Twin spoon, Sophie countered. Gabe drew a lopsided heart around twin forks, and they all laughed and circled it. They spent Saturday sweeping out the space, the echo of their footsteps bouncing off high tin ceilings. Sun painted the floors in honey. As they locked up at dusk, a woman hovered by the doorframe, thin, tired, clutching a canvas tote. Sorry to bother y'all, she said, voice frayed. Are you hiring? I can wash dishes, mop anything. Sophie and Jules traded a look. They didn't know her. Gabe did. His breath caught. The woman's eyes flicked to his, and then away, as if braced for impact. Vanessa, he said. The key was still warm in his hand. The name in Gabe's mouth stopped the air. Vanessa? The woman at the door flinched like the word was a slap. Up close, she looked older than Gabe remembered. Hollow cheeks, drugstore dye job grown out at the roots, a thrift store cardigan buttoned wrong. She clutched the canvas tote to her chest and couldn't meet his eyes. Jules glanced from her dad to the stranger. You know her? Gabe swallowed. The new key to their future was warm in his fist. Girls, he said, voice low. Step outside with me a second. They crowded onto the sidewalk under the faded for lease banner. Cars hissed past. Somewhere a siren wailed and faded. Gabe leaned against the brick, suddenly tired to the bone. When you were 3 months old, he said, your mother left. I burned every picture because looking at them hurt more than not having them. That's on me. But it means you wouldn't know her if she stood in front of you. Jules's eyes sharpened. Sophie reached for his sleeve. Dad. He nodded toward the doorway. This is Vanessa. They stared at the woman like she'd come up out of the sidewalk. Vanessa finally lifted her face. Her eyes, brown like theirs, were rimmed red. I'm not here to wreck anything, she whispered. I need a job. I can scrub floors, wash plates, whatever you need. Please. Jules pressed her lips together so hard they went white. Sophie's jaw trembled, then set. Gabe waited, saying nothing, the way he had waded through colic and chemo-grade fevers and the math of rent versus groceries. This choice wasn't his to make. Sophie spoke first. "We don't hire family," she said carefully, "but we don't have a family here. We have a future. If you work like anyone else. Clock in. Follow the lead. No expectations." Vanessa nodded fast. "Yes, of course. Thank you." Jules's voice was ice on hot pavement. "You'll be in the dish pit." End of story. They took her name and number. They didn't hug her. They didn't ask where she'd been. They turned back to the door and to the life they were actually building. The next weeks were noise and sawdust and takeout boxes eaten cross-legged on the blank dining room floor. Tony's contractor, a patient guy named Felix, walked Gabe through hood vent codes and grease trap reality. Ms. Collette showed up with a box fan and a shoebox of recipes. "You want cobbler that makes grown men cry?" she said, tapping the card. "That's your closer." They painted the tin ceiling a warm cream and rolled a deep green onto the lower half of the walls. Jules drew a chalk mural of coffee plants and forks twined like DNA. Sophie wrangled vendors and permits, nailed costs, stretched pennies into nickels. Gabe sanded a reclaimed wood counter until the grain shone like ripples in a creek. On a rainy Friday, Tony stopped by with paper cups of good coffee and a grin. "You're ahead of schedule," he said, peering over the plastic drop cloth. "First month's rent due on a check for $1 American. Don't blow it." He slid a single bill across the dusty hostess stand. Jules taped it inside the office cabinet like a relic. Vanessa started 2 days before soft opening. She showed up early, head down, hands already chapped from cheap soap. In the dish area, she moved like she was trying to outrun her thoughts. Rinse, rack, slam, steam. No complaints, no small talk. Once, when she thought no one was looking, she watched the twins through the pass window with a look Gabe couldn't read. Hunger and pride and something broken. "Keep it clean and quiet," Jules told Marty, who'd come over to help train the line. "She's just another pair of hands." "Sure, boss," he said, then dropped his voice. "You good?" "I'm furious," Jules said evenly, "but I'm good." Opening day smelled like bacon and coffee and wet umbrellas. The line hit the sidewalk by 9 a.m. Neighbors brought flowers. Ms. Collette wore church pearls and parked herself at booth, one like a queen. Tony sent a plant the size of a fifth grader with a note. "Proud of you. AP." Sophie ran expo like air traffic control. "Table 12 is dying on pancakes," she called, spinning plates toward the pass. Jules charmed a blogger with an extra side of candied bacon for research. Gabe floated, topping waters, bussing in a rhythm that felt like prayer. In back, Vanessa kept dishes moving, arms breaking trays that would have tipped a smaller person. When the lunch crush hit, a prep kid left a speed rack in the wrong aisle and a pan of roasted carrots skated toward the floor. Vanessa lunged, caught it, hissed as scorching oil popped her wrist, and saved half the pan. "Behind!" she barked, crisp, competent. Old muscle memory. The line pivoted around her like they'd rehearsed. After close, they counted the till at the reclaimed wood counter, hands greasy, faces shining, laughter working its way loose from their ribs. "We did it," Sophie said, voice thick. The day's numbers sat solid as a foundation brick. Gabe ducked into the alley with 2 trash bags and found Vanessa sitting on a milk crate, hands in her lap, steam rising from the dumpster. She didn't look up. "You burned every picture," she said finally. "Yeah," he said. "I burned what I could. Kept what mattered. You kept them. She swallowed. I I got married again. Twice. Thought I was fixing myself. I wasn't. I don't have a speech. Just, I know what I did. There isn't a day I don't. Gabe stared at the slick of rain on the concrete, the thin crescent scar on his thumb from a long ago can opener. They don't owe you, he said softly. You don't get to call them your girls because you want to anymore. If you want a sliver of anything with them, you earn it, plate by plate, and you don't push. Vanessa nodded, eyes wet. I hear you. For a while, she did exactly that. She kept her head down. She covered splits. She learned where Sophie kept the extra ramekins and how Jules liked the coffee filter folded. Customers never knew the woman in the dish pit used to be the hole in the twins' story. Then, on a slammed Saturday, a server brushed past with the wrong tone, and Vanessa snapped. If you'd stop flirting with the busboy and start checking table numbers, she said loud enough for the past to hear, we wouldn't be in the weeds. The server froze. The room did that subtle thing kitchens do when the temperature spikes for reasons unrelated to flame. Jules lifted her head, eyes narrowing, and saw, over the server's shoulder, a woman at the end of the counter tucking a press badge back into her tote. Sophie stepped in, voice even. Allie, now. Vanessa's jaw worked. For a heartbeat, she looked like she might refuse. Then she set down the pan and followed Sophie through the swinging door. Out front, the blogger took a picture of the chalkboard specials. Hands steady, expression unreadable. Jules breathed out through her nose and turned up her smile for table 7. In the alley, rain started again, a thin, needling drizzle. Sophie crossed her arms. We said quiet and clean. Vanessa stared at the wet brick and didn't answer. Dishes, Sophie said, each syllable clipped. Only, or you don't stay. Vanessa's mouth twisted. I'm your mother, she said, without looking up. Sophie felt it like a shove. You're our employee, she said, keeping her voice from shaking by force. Don't make us choose. Vanessa flinched, just a fraction. Yes, chef, she said finally, and turned back toward the heat. Inside, the tickets kept spitting. The coffee kept dripping. Life went on, like it always had when something tried to break it. But as Sophie slid back onto Expo, Jules leaned in and murmured, we might have just opened the doors, but I'm not letting anyone, shut them. Agreed, Sophie said, eyes already on the next plate. Neither of them saw the blogger's post go live an hour later. A new Twin Force diner with heart and heat hits River City. They didn't see the comments start either. They'd feel them tomorrow. The post hits while Jules is refilling ketchup. Her phone lights up like a slot machine. Tags, shares, a headline with a photo of the chalk mural, a new Twin Force diner with heart and heat hits River City. By 10 a.m., the line wraps around the block. A guy in a beanie live streams the wait. A morning show producer DMs, segment this week? Sophie just texts back a pancake emoji and keeps calling tickets. Gabe stands at the door in his best flannel, greeting folks like a small-town mayor. Welcome in. Coffee on the left. Brunch menu flips at noon. Miss Colette sits in booth 1 with a mug and her pearls, telling anyone who'll listen, order the cobbler. Trust me, baby. Back on the line, Marty flips eggs like a drummer. Jules charms a table of nurses on night shift and sneaks them extra hash browns. Sophie is Expo air traffic. 2 stacks, 1 no butter, side of fruit, make it clean. Team. The room hums like a happy engine. In the dish pit, Vanessa moves metal and steam with a practiced economy. For the first hour, she's a ghost. Quiet, efficient, eyes down. Then a server parks a bus tub in the wrong place, and she bites. If you're going to block the drain, at least learn to rinse. It's sharp enough to slice. The kid reddens. Jules clocks it and keeps moving. One comment is a pebble. A restaurant is a river. You don't dam it with pebbles. By Wednesday, the Yelp page has 40 reviews, most 5 stars. A few mention tense vibes by the pass. Someone posts a shaky video, a pan sliding, a shout, "Behind!" and Vanessa saving the day barehanded. The caption reads, "This kitchen is real." It gets 1,000 likes. Saturday dinner crush, the first they've tried. The dish machine coughs, blinks, and dies. Steam fades. Plates pile. Sophie sends Marty to the breaker. "We can hand wash for 10, she calls. "We're not losing this wall." Vanessa snaps a rubber glove and turns on the faucet full blast. A high schooler on his first shift freezes at the mountain of plates. "Move," she tells him, and he does. For 5 minutes, it's a ballet of speed and suds. Then a ticket spike on the line, a server bumps a rack, and water sheets across the tile. The kid slips, catches himself on the stainless, almost brings the whole stack down. Vanessa wheels on him. "If you can't handle dishes, maybe you should be at home playing Xbox." "Enough," Gabe says from the corner, calm as a bell. He's been hauling bus tubs to help clear the choke point. He's learning. We all did. She rounds on him, voice low but poisonous. "You've had a decade to learn, Gabe. Still just hanging around the edges, letting them carry you?" Everything slows. Sophie steps to the pass, eyes on Vanessa. Jules puts down her pen. The high schooler stares at his shoes. Gabe doesn't raise his voice. "This isn't the edges," he says. "This is my family's center." For the first time since she walked back through a door with their faces on the other side, Jules feels something colder than anger. It settles in her chest like ice water. "Sophie," she says, "close after last ticket." They push the rush through sheer will and muscle memory. When the final plate clears and the last customer waves from the door, Sophie flips the open sign to closed and locks it. The room exhales. Fans spin. The dish machine, once revived by Marty's breaker magic, hums again. They meet at the reclaimed wood counter. Jules, Sophie, Gabe. Across from them, Vanessa with damp hair stuck to her forehead, smelling of lemon soap and steam. Tony happens to be there, late meal at the end of the bar, sleeves rolled, listening without pretending not to. Sophie starts. "Second chances matter here. So do boundaries. We wrote this place on love and fairness and the idea that people can grow. But today you crossed a line." Vanessa's mouth twitches. "I saved your Saturday." "We saw that," Jules says. "We also saw you cut down a kid and disrespect our dad. You don't get to talk to staff like that. You definitely don't get to talk to him like that." "I'm your mother," Vanessa says, and it sounds like she's tasting the word for the first time in a decade. "No," Jules says, steady. "You're our biological mother. Our mother is the woman who showed up. Him and Ms. Collette and every person who stood in the gap when you left. You can earn a place in our lives, but you don't get to demand it." Vanessa's eyes flash, shame curdling into heat. "He poisoned you against me." Gabe lifts a hand. "I told them the truth. That you left. That's all." Tony clears his throat. "I'm not family, so I'll keep it brief." He pulls a card from his wallet. "A buddy of mine runs River Market Hall. 12 stalls, heavy lunch foot traffic. He's got a corner kiosk open. If you want something that's yours, not theirs. I can get you 3 months rent-free. Basic equipment covered. It's work. It's dignity. It's a start. The room holds its breath. For a heartbeat, Vanessa's face softens into something like hunger for a different life. Then it hardens. You think you can buy me off? Set me up somewhere out of sight, while she stabs a finger toward Gabe, sits here cashing checks he didn't earn? Jules leans in, color high. You never say that about him again. Sophie's voice is quiet, final. We're ending your employment, effective now. 2 weeks severance. And Tony's offer if you want it. No hard feelings if you don't. But this kitchen has to be safe, for everyone. Silence thuds. Vanessa stares at the envelope Sophie sets on the counter like it's a trick. She doesn't take it. She doesn't refuse it. She just looks past them all at the chalk mural and the room full of everything she once walked away from, and finally says, "You'll regret this." So softly, it sounds like a prayer. She unties her apron, drops it on the counter, and walks out into the cooling night. The bell on the door gives two small, apologetic chimes. They stand there a long stretch, listening to nothing. The hum of the cooler, the fan, the tiny metallic tick of something settling. Gabe is the first to move. He pulls them into him, foreheads against his chest, like when they were little and the world was too loud. You protected what you built, he whispers. That's what grown-ups do. They clean in a hush. Marty mops. Ms. Collette drops off a Tupperware of cobbler for courage. Tony scrawls a number on the back of the card. If she calls, I'll hold the stall for 72 hours, he says. If not, life moves. Jules locks the door behind him and flips the lights down to a soft glow. Instagram pings. Sophie glances at the screen and frowns. A new message request, River County Health, notice. Then, before she can open it, there's a sharp rap on the glass. A man in a navy jacket stands under the awning, clipboard tucked against his ribs, badge catching the neon. He smiles a city official smile and points to the decal by the door. Evening, he mouths through the glass. Anonymous complaint. Won't take long. The man in the navy jacket lifts his badge so they can see it. Marcus Alvarez, City Health. The smile is polite. The clipboard isn't. Behind him, the neon of River Twins Diner flickers in the window, reflected in a wet sheen across the tile where they just finished mopping. Sophie unlocks and steps aside. We're closed, but you're welcome to do what you need. That's the spirit. Alvarez snaps on blue gloves. Anonymous complaint. Alleged standing water by dish, improper cooling, and hostile work environment. I don't grade vibes, he adds, dry, but I do check drains and food temps. Jules swallows the sting of that last phrase. Hostile. Her eyes flick to the empty hook, where Vanessa's apron hung an hour ago. Not now. We'll walk you through. He moves with the casual precision of someone who's shut places down and hates doing it. Hand wash sink first. He runs it, looks for soap and paper towels. Good. He glances at Sophie's ServSafe certificate on the wall. Recent. Passed last month, she says, trying to read his face. Alvarez kneels by the dish machine, flips up the panel, and fishes out a chlorine strip. He runs a rack, dips, waits. 50 ppm. You want closer to 100. Turn the dial. Marty tweaks the feed. They run it again. 90. Better. He scribbles. Log your checks every service. If I don't see ink, it didn't happen. In the walk-in, cold air washes their faces. Alvarez jams a stem thermometer into a hotel pan. Slaw at 38. Nice. He opens another pan, frowns. Gravy in a deep bin, still at 75. When did you cook this? 2 hours ago, Jules says, heart thudding. Hot food to 135, then cool from 135 to 70 within 2 hours, 70 to 41 within 4. Shallow pans, ice baths, stir. This won't make the cut as is. We'll rebatch, Sophie says, already reaching for spare pans. Ice bath, blast fan. Good. He checks gloves, hair restraints, labels. He nods at the allergen chart by the pass. You're ahead of most. They pass the prep table just as the floor drain, near dish, gives a tired burp. A thin ring of water creeps back around the grate. Alvarez crouches, clicks his tongue. This your standing water. The machine flooded earlier, Marty says. We cleared it, but the drain's slow. That's a critical. No active service with water pooling. You're closed now, which is a mercy. I'll need a recheck in the morning before you open. Sophie's stomach drops. Tomorrow is their first full-on brunch with a TV crew coming. She keeps her voice level. What does that mean practically? It means I post a notice of corrections required tonight. He tears a yellow sheet like it hurts him. It's not a fail, it's a hold. Fix the drain, fix the cooling, tighten sanitizer. I come back at 9 a.m. If it's good, you're good. If not, you stay closed until it is. He pauses near the chalk mural of the twins at 5 in pigtails with Gabe between them, hands raised like a referee. Place has heart, he says, almost to himself. Then, louder. Whoever filed the complaint sent a video of the earlier flood. From your alley window. Jules feels heat crawl up her neck. Did they leave a name? He lifts a shoulder. Anonymous means anonymous. Could be a competitor. Could be someone mad. Doesn't matter. What matters is you're safe. He posts the yellow notice inside the glass. See you at 9. When the door clicks behind him, the room feels enormous. The yellow sheet glows like a warning flare in the night. Gabe exhales. We fix it. We fix it, Sophie echoes, already dialing. Plumber. She hits 3 numbers before remembering who always came through when money was tight. I'll call Pastor Ray. He's got a guy who owes him 3 favors. Within 40 minutes, a tired man in coveralls named Tito is under their dish line with a snake, cracking jokes about noodles, while he pulls up a clog of lemon seeds and a bottle cap that somehow migrated from bar to back of house. Marty calibrates thermometers in ice water. Jules rebatches gravy into 6 shallow pans and sinks them into an ice bath, stirring like a metronome. Sophie prints date labels until her hand cramps and tapes a fresh "wash hands" by the bathroom mirror, because overkill is love. Ms. Collette arrives in slippers with a foil pan. Red beans and rice for the troops, she says, setting it down like a holy offering. And don't you dare argue. She looks at the yellow notice, sucks her teeth, and turns to the mop. I've seen worse kitchens pass. You'll be fine. Tony texts, holding market stall, 72 HRs if she wants it. You did right. Jules types, then erases. She wants to ask if he thinks Vanessa made the complaint. She wants to not care. She settles on, thank you. We'll be ready at 9. By 2 a.m., the place gleams. SOPs are on the whiteboard. Temp logs, hourly, cool and shallow pans. Drain guard check. No one says anonymous and no one says mom. They just work. At 8:58 a.m., the twins stand at the door in clean aprons, hair braided tight. Gabe has his old church tie on like a charm. Alvarez appears at 9 on the dot. Same polite face. New gloves. He moves through stations in silence, thermometer and strip like wands. He peels back plastic on the gravy, nods at the thermometer. 40. He runs a dish rack, 100 ppm. He pours a pitcher near the drain. The water swirls, then disappears like a magic trick. He stands by the mural again, pen hovering. Then he smiles with more of his face. Posting your A. Keep doing what you did last night every night. Busy rooms get sloppy. Sloppy rooms get closed. The decal goes up. A clean blue A in the window. Jules realizes she's been holding her breath and lets it go. Outside, the small crowd that had gathered, neighbors, a few customers, a lady with a stroller, claps. Ms. Colette wipes at her eyes with the heel of her hand like she got dust in them. Sophie snaps a photo of the A and drafts a post. We had a surprise inspection after an equipment hiccup last night. We shut down, fixed it, and this morning we earned our A. We'll always choose safety, transparency, and your trust. See you at brunch. She hits share, and the comments flood with heart emojis and proud of y'all. They flip the open sign. The first table is a dad with two little girls in matching bows. He orders pancakes shaped like hearts, and Gabe cuts them at the table with the same steady hands that once measured formula by flashlight. At 11, Tony slips in, a to-go coffee in hand. Good morning, A-Team. He gestures toward the window. One more thing. Market manager texted. Somebody showed up for that kiosk. Jules blinks. She took it? Tony nods, hesitant. She took it. Signed as Mama V's. Sophie swallows, unsure if what she feels is relief or a new kind of ache. Okay, she says. Good. A clean start is a clean start. Tony shifts, uneasy. There's also this. He slides his phone across the counter. On the screen is a brand new Instagram account for Mama VS Twins. The profile pic is a selfie of Vanessa in a bandana. The bio reads, Original mother of the River Twins. Come taste the food they learned from me. For a beat, the diner noise blurs. Jules stares at the claim like it's a match pressed to old paper. She's writing your name, Tony says, voice low. We can ignore it, or we can play chess. Sophie looks from the phone to the line, to their dad refilling coffee for the Bow girl's father, to the blue A shining in the window. Then we play chess, she says. Our way. The bell over the door jingles. A woman in a blazer steps inside carrying a leather folder. Hi, she says, all bright. I'm from Channel 8, about that morning show segment. Going live in 3, 2. The red tally light on the Channel 8 camera pops on. Jules and Sophie stand behind the counter in clean denim aprons, hair slicked back in twin braids. The blue A decal gleams in the window like a medal. Gabe hovers off camera in a borrowed sport coat, hands folded, equal parts proud and petrified. Welcome back. We're at River Twins Diner. The anchor chirps, glossy smile in place. These sisters turned a neighborhood brunch spot into a city obsession. What's your secret? Sophie slides a skillet onto the burner. Simple food, cooked safe, she says, meeting the lens. And a lot of love. Love and temp logs, Jules deadpans, drawing a laugh from the crew. She pours batter in perfect circles. We cool hot foods in shallow pans, label everything, and their dad keeps everybody honest, the anchor adds, motioning to Gabe. He steps forward, blush rising. The camera catches the mural of him with the twins at 5, hands raised like a ref. The anchor melts. Okay, I'm already crying. They move through a quick segment. Buttermilk pancakes, hot honey on crispy chicken, Ms. Colette's red beans. Yes, she let us share it. Jules says, like it's a diplomatic treaty. It's warm, smooth, easy. Then the anchor tilts her head, voice softening to that morning show confessional tone. Sophie, Jules, quick question. There's an Instagram account this morning claiming to be, quote, the original mother of the River Twins. Any comment? The producer's eyes flash apology from behind the camera. Tony, just offset, tenses. The air thins. Jules doesn't look at Sophie. She doesn't have to. We're grateful for the women who poured into us, she says, hands steady on the spatula. One of them is sitting in booth 3. She nods toward the window. The camera swings. Ms. Colette, in her church sweater and pearls, lifts a shy hand. The internet will later freeze frame the exact moment her eyes glisten. Sophie picks it up. Family is complicated. We won't litigate ours on camera. But we can say this. The person who showed up for us has a name, and you just saw her. The anchor blinks, then softens. I love that answer. She grins at the pancakes. And I love these. Back after the break with where you can get this plate. Cut. The tally light clicks off. The studio people exhale. The producer squeezes Jules's arm. You handled that like a pro. Sorry for the curveball. Newsroom said the account was trending. No shade, Jules says, breath finally finding her. We knew it was coming. Outside, the sidewalk is filling. People had watched the live segment on phones and drifted over like moths to syrup. Gabe refills coffee like his palms were built for it. Ms. Colette accepts a free short stack, and when thanked says, I raised them to share, like the line was hers all along. In the office nook, Tony thumbs through a leather folder. Quick debrief. We filed the trademark for River Twins Diner last week. If Vanessa implies affiliation or uses your name in commerce, we can send a cease and desist. Jules folds her arms. Mama V's is fair game. Original mother of the River Twins is gross, but not illegal. She can't use your logo, your photographs, or a confusingly similar mark, Tony says. And if she tells the market she trained you, that's misrepresentation to the manager. Sophie stares at the new Mama V's Twins feed. There's a selfie from a city kiosk, a caption claiming my recipes, and their success is my seasoning. In her stories, a poll. Who do you believe? The numbers tilt toward messy. We don't feed that, Sophie says. We don't throw mud. Tony nods, but his mouth is grim. Then we play long game. Show your work, protect your brand, outlove her. For 3 hours, they do exactly that. The post-inspection A is pin. They share a time-lapse of cooling gravy in shallow pans with the caption, Safety is delicious. Customers flood stories with plates and heart emojis. A pediatrician mom posts her twins under the mural. From one twin mom to another, proud of y'all. The DMs turn into a river of kindness. At 2, Marty hustles over with a cupcake box. Congrats on not getting shut down cake. It's lopsided, but it's legal. Perfect, Jules says, slicing it crooked. They're mid-bite when the market manager's number flashes on Tony's phone. He puts it on speaker. Hey, Denise. Hi, Tony. Quick heads up. Mama V's opened this morning, and within an hour, I had 2 complaints. One about a food handler without a hat. One about a lady telling customers she's the twins' real mother, and the diner is stealing her dishes. Sophie's jaw tightens. We didn't send those. Denise snorts. I know who keeps my market clean. Also, she submitted a copy of a food safety certificate with your business name on it. Paper rustles. Looks edited. Tony's voice drops. Is it ours? It's your template with her info pasted in. I'm pulling her permit pending verification. Jules feels the pancakes settle heavy in her stomach. We don't want to ruin her. We just want her to stop using our name. I'll deal with the permit, Denise says. But there's something else. She hesitates. I got a message from an account called Kitchen Truthers with a video of a roach supposedly on your dining room wall. Timestamp. Last night. We were closed, Jules says, ice prickling her scalp. Yeah, Denise says. Also, I can see your A in the window. Upside down. A beat. It's clearly a flipped clip. But look, truth doesn't matter online. You all should get ahead of this. The line clicks off. The room feels smaller. Marty taps his phone. She posted it. He turns it around. The fake roach video is already spreading. Comments frothing. Sophie shakes off the panic. Okay, so we do what we do. We show receipts. Gabe, who's been quiet, steps close. Let me say something. He nods at the mural. On camera. Jules looks at her dad. The man who measured formula by flashlight, who learned to braid hair before he learned to poach eggs. She nods. Sophie cues her phone to record. 3, 2... Gabe looks into the lens, voice even. I'm the girl's dad. We're not perfect. Last night, we had a drain issue. We called the city. We fixed it. We earned our A. If you eat with us, you'll taste food and see integrity. That's all we got. That's enough. They post it. Within minutes, the health inspector himself drops a comment. Confirmed. Correction made, grade A. The fake clip loses steam. The tide tilts back. The bell rings. A woman in scrubs steps in, eyes tired but kind. I watched your live. I brought my mother. She hasn't eaten in 2 days. Behind her, an elderly woman clings to her arm, frail and bird-boned. Booth 2, Sophie says, moving. Chicken broth and soft pancakes on us. As Jules walks them over, her phone buzzes. A DM from a private account with no posts. Just a gray outline and 2 words. I'm sorry. Then a second message. He's making me do it. Jules stares at the screen, a chill crawling up her back. Who's he? And how many moves ahead is this game about to get? The DM sits on Jules's screen like a bruise. I'm sorry. He's making me do it. Then, please don't reply here. Meet me where the market has the blue umbrellas. Noon. Public. Vanessa, Sophie asks. Who else signs with a single letter? Jules pockets her phone. Daylight. People around. We go. They leave Gabe and Marty to the lunch rush and cut through the noise of Saturday shoppers. Strollers. Dogs. The honey vendor singing Patsy Cline. Under a cluster of city blue umbrellas, Vanessa stands alone in a thrifted jean jacket, eyes rimmed red, hair yanked back like she did it fast in a bathroom mirror. She flinches when she sees them, then steels herself. I never meant to hurt you, she blurts. He said I had leverage. He said we could build a brand together, that it was the only way I'd ever be anything but the woman who left. Who is he? Sophie asks, calm as a nurse taking a pulse. Vanessa swallows. Rafe Nolan calls himself a food promoter. He found me when I was bussing tables out by the interstate, said he could help me reclaim my narrative. He set up the account, wrote the captions, paid a kid to do that bug video. He's the one who doctored the certificate. He keeps my passwords. If I don't do what he says, he threatens to post things, texts, pictures, stuff I'm not proud of. Jules and Sophie exchange a glance. This isn't the swaggering woman who crashed their kitchen. This is someone backed into a corner. We won't judge your past, Jules says, but we have to protect our staff and customers. And Dad. Vanessa nods, shame flooding her face. I know. He doesn't want me to have anything. Rafe. He said if you sue me, he'll go nuclear at the Harvest Festival. Bullhorn, flyers, people pretending to get sick. He wants 10 grand to make it go away. Extortion, Sophie says flatly. Jules pulls out her phone. You're not paying him. We're not paying him. You're going to hand us screenshots, logins, anything you have. And then you're going to tell the market manager exactly what you just told us. Vanessa flinches. He'll know. Let him, Jules says. Let him know we're done playing in the dark. Tony is waiting at the coffee shop across the street with Denise from the market and a city attorney in a navy blazer who introduces herself as Alvarez from Consumer Protection. Vanessa hands over her cracked phone with shaking fingers. Messages bloom on the screen. Rafe's voice notes, his strategy decks, the flipped roach clip with a timestamp overlay tutorial. Alvarez's face hardens. This isn't gossip, she says. This is fraud. Denise, you good if I sit in on your permit meeting? Denise nods. And I'll be pulling Mama V's stall today. We don't play games here. Vanessa's shoulders cave. He'll come to me. He always comes when I lose something. He'll blame me. Then don't be alone, Sophie says. We'll walk you to the office. The plan unfurls on a napkin, fast and clean. Denise will text Ray from Vanessa's phone to discuss brand strategy. Alvarez will be in the next room. Tony will wait in the hallway with security. Jules and Sophie will go back to the diner and do what they do best. Feed people. Be visible. Refuse to hide. Back at River Twins, the lunch line coils to the door. Gabe moves through it like a quiet tide, topping off coffee, lifting shoulders with a joke. Jules drafts a post. We believe in showing our work. Our kitchen is open, our logs are real, our hugs are free. Today, pancakes for any hospital worker on us. No questions asked. Within minutes, EMTs in Navy shirts and a couple of NICU nurses slip into a corner booth, grateful and bone-tired. The room hums with that particular mercy you can taste. At 2:17, Tony's text comes in. He took the bait. In Denise's office now. Sophie's hands find Jules's without thinking. They don't speak. They plate. In the market office, Denise sits behind a battered desk. Vanessa in a side chair twisting a tissue to threads. Rafe bursts in with cologne too loud and sunglasses too dark for indoors. He greets Denise like she's a fan and pats Vanessa's shoulder like she's property. Baby, what did you break now? He croons. Lucky for you, Daddy fixes. Alvarez steps out from the side room. Let's keep the daddy to your therapist. Rafe's smile glitches. And you are? City attorney, Alvarez says. Consumer protection. While you're here, we'll be collecting your devices. You can't do that without consent. Vanessa's voice is surprisingly clear. She stands, no longer shrinking. You used my name to lie. You used my shame to make money. I'm done. Rafe's jaw tightens. And you two think you're saints? He jabs a finger at Denise and Alvarez. Those girls are a brand like any other. You know how brands are built? Dirt, story, struggle. I gave them antagonists, and they rose. We all made money. Alvarez slides a form forward. You can lecture philosophy at arraignment. For now, we're preserving evidence. Security steps in. Rafe yanks his arm away and leans toward Vanessa one last time, voice dropping to a hiss. You think they'll keep you? You think Daddy Gabe will let you sit at Thanksgiving? Here's a free PR tip. Ask him why you really left. He goes quiet only when the cuffs touch his wrists. The call hits the diner before the door chime can. Tony's voice is tight. He's out for now. Citation and a no-contact order, pending charges. But he said something ugly on the way out. He's going to spin this as a family secret. He's already DMing troll accounts. Jules looks at Gabe through the pass, her father laughing with a toddler over a whipped cream smiley face, the softest man she knows. The words lodge like gravel in her throat. At dusk, they lock up to a sky the color of a chalkboard. Marty drags the sandwich board inside. Sophie deadbolts, then stops, staring. A spider crack veins across the front window. On the sill sits a garden variety brick wrapped in scrap paper. Tony peels the paper back. 3 words in black Sharpie: pay or ruined. Sophie doesn't blink. We call Alvarez. We call Denise. We call the alarm company. And tomorrow morning, we open. Early. Gabe presses the brick down on the counter like an anchor, and finally looks at his daughters. "You don't owe anybody a secret," he says quietly. "If we have to tell the whole story, we tell it. On our terms." Jules nods, heart knocking. Outside, sirens wail somewhere far away. Inside, the neon hums, the mural glows, and the brick sits like a dare. By sunrise, the crack in the front window is hidden behind plywood. Gabe painted sky blue overnight. Across it, he brushed a hand-lettered promise in white. "We don't serve fear. We serve breakfast." The brick sits on the counter in a zip-top bag like evidence. Coffee brews. Bacon sings. The neon hums alive. Alvarez from Consumer Protection shows up in a windbreaker, snaps a photo of the brick, and takes the police report number from Gabe. No contact order means he can't message, show up, or send someone, she says. If he did this, we'll add vandalism and intimidation. Either way, cameras go up today. "Already ordered," Marty says, holding 2 boxes of doorbell cams like they're pies. They open an hour early. First in are a pair of EMTs, then a mail carrier, then the elementary school secretary who's been coming since the first week. People drop hands on the plywood like it's a signing wall. "You got this. Proud of you." A tiny pancake doodle. Jules posts a photo with 3 words. "We're right here." Comments pour in like warm syrup. At 10, Tony texts, "Market office ready? Denise, Alvarez, me, Vanessa. Your call. Want to sit in?" Sophie glances at the packed dining room. "We do more good feeding people," she says. "Tell us what we need to know." 2 hours later, Tony returns with a debrief and 2 cinnamon rolls he didn't pay for. He strutted in, ran his mouth, then realized we weren't bluffing. Alvarez copied his phone. Vanessa gave full consent. Denise pulled her stall for cause. "Is it over?" Jules asks. Tony's mouth tilts. It's quieter. Not over. Vanessa texts a few minutes later, a message so careful it might crack. "If you'll let me, I want to tell the truth. Not as your mom, as the woman who left. Rafe used my silence. I won't give him that anymore." Jules reads it twice. Sophie does too. Gabe listens at the pass, thumb worrying a dish towel. "If we tell it," Gabe says, "we tell all of it. Not the glossy parts." Jules nods. "We go live. Q&A. Open kitchen. No dramatics. No names we can't legally say. We center what matters." They set it for 6 p.m. Town hall supper. Free coffee for nurses and teachers. Kids get chocolate chip pancakes because kids should always get pancakes. Marty rigs a phone on a tripod by the pass so the internet can watch omelets flip while the truth lands. At 6, the diner is full. The kind of full that feels like church and homecoming and a snow day rolled together. Alvarez sits near the jukebox in case a legal line needs drawing. Denise holds a notepad, but doesn't write. Vanessa, in a plain sweater, with her hair pulled back, sits beside the mural of the river she ran from. She looks small, but she doesn't hide. Jules opens. Hi, neighbors. We've had a week. You've seen rumors. You've also seen us. Right here, grill hot, lights on. Tonight we wanted to answer questions and say some things out loud so nobody can twist them. Sophie takes it from there. Someone tried to shake us down. We didn't pay. We turned evidence over to the city. We won't be bullied into silence. But the mess clawed open an old wound, and we're going to talk about that too. She turns to Vanessa. The room holds its breath. Vanessa grips her cup like it's the only solid thing she owns. I left when they were 3 months old, she says. I told myself I was escaping a life that was too small, too hard. The truth is, I was sick. Postpartum depression, panic, dark thoughts, no sleep. I felt like a hollow person wearing a mother costume. Gabe wrote me a letter with a list. Doctor, therapy, boundaries. He said he loved me, but he'd file for custody if I refused to get help. Gabe blinks, surprised she said it plainly. He looks at his hands. I didn't go, Vanessa says. I took shame and ran. I blamed him for years because blame kept me from looking in a mirror. And then someone found me when I was broke and desperate and promised to make me matter. I let myself be used. I hurt people I already hurt once. I'm sorry. No theatrics, no violin, just a human voice that sounds exactly like regret. Gabe clears his throat. I wrote that letter because I was scared, he says. I didn't blast her business. I didn't torch her name. I just tried to keep 2 babies breathing. If you need to be mad at someone, aim it at me. But I won't apologize for keeping them safe. A hand goes up in the second booth. It's the school secretary. My daughter had postpartum, she says. It almost took her. Thank you for saying the words out loud. Another hand. A nurse. Resources? She asks. Sophie gestures to a sheet taped by the register. Phone numbers for the county hotline, a postpartum support group that meets Tuesdays at the library, a sliding scale therapist 2 blocks over. If you can't afford the copay, she says, tell us. The Pancake Fund is now also the therapy fund. Online, the comments slow from a flood to a stream you can wade through. Proud of y'all. My sister had PPD too. Thank you for not dragging and just telling the truth. A handful of troll accounts try to drop bug emojis. Marty blocks them like mosquitoes. Afterward, people linger the way people do when they've heard something true. The EMTs buy a pie to leave at the firehouse. A teen asks if he can do his Eagle Scout project building a new bench outside. 2 moms hug Vanessa without words. She cries in a small, private way, and then helps bus a table. The bell over the door jingles. Denise answers her phone, face going pale. She covers the receiver and whispers to Jules and Sophie. Harvest Festival vendors are spooked. Someone blasted a mass text that the health department is investigating you and that the chili cook-off is unsafe. Half the lineup just pulled out. Insurance says if more leave, we might have to cancel the whole thing. Jules feels her stomach drop. The festival is tomorrow. It's the town's heartbeat. School bands, scout troops, pie auction, the works. Sophie squares her shoulders. Then we don't let it die, she says. If the cook-off folds, we'll cook anyway, out front. Breakfast for a crowd, free for kids. Bring a receipt if you want. Our grill's the inspection. Denise nods, already texting. I'll fight to keep the permits, but if they bail, you may be the show. Jules looks at Gabe. He looks at the brick in the bag and then at his daughter's. We were built for hard mornings, he says. Tony's phone buzzes. He reads the screen, jaw tight. He posted a countdown, he says. 24 hours. Truth at the river. He tagged the festival. Outside, night falls fast. Inside, the plywood sign glows in the window like a lighthouse. The grill cools. The town watches the clock by dawn. The town green smells like cinnamon and damp hay. The harvest festival rises in pieces. Pumpkins stacked like cairns. The high school drumline warming up by the gazebo. Scouts stringing pennants from oak to oak. Downriver, fog clings to the water like it doesn't want to miss the show. Jules and Sophie roll their flat-top griddle onto the sidewalk like a parade float. Gabe follows with 2 coolers of batter and a box of spatulas. Marty slams the tailgate shut on a borrowed pickup overflowing with bacon. Denise, headset on, is pure motion. Permits in a folder, smile for anxious vendors, clipboard like a shield. Cook-off might be light, she says, breathless, but you're our anchor. Free kids' plates. Tip jar goes to the therapy fund. Then let's feed 1,000, Sophie says, tying on her bandana. 2 if we have to. Alvarez appears in city windbreaker, coffee in hand. We beefed up patrols. If anyone shows with a fake badge or a bullhorn, text me and duck. We'll handle. Vanessa arrives in a gray sweater and jeans, eyes steady. She sets up a card table labeled New Mom, Postpartum Support. Tuesdays, Arab Library. She lays out flyers, a bowl of hard candies, and a sign that simply says, "You're not broken. You're exhausted." Jules squeezes her shoulder. "Good call," she whispers. Vanessa nods without looking away from the river. By 10, the diner's parking lot griddle is a metronome. Flip, sizzle, plate. Flip, sizzle, plate. Kids in cowboy boots and glitter sneakers line up with paper boats and sticky smiles. A retired teacher buys a whole tray for the band. The mayor, windbreaker, cheeks like apples, stops by for a photo. Health code on point, he teases. Jules holds up a thermometer like a baton. 165 on eggs, 200 on joy. Laughter, relief, community. For 3 hours it feels like the rumor mill forgot how to grind. At 1 o'clock, the sky hardens to pewter. A drone whirs in over the river, small and mean-looking. It hovers above the gazebo, then above the pancake line. Something flutters from beneath it. Papers. Dozens, then hundreds, like a gray confetti storm. People snatch them from the air. Denise grabs one, frowns, goes white. Jules takes hers and feels her stomach cold with the first sentence. Emergency. Public health notice. Temporary suspension of food service. Cedar Ridge Harvest Festival. It has the state seal. It has a case number. It lists multiple violations observed at booths, including Cedar Ridge Diner. It orders an immediate shutdown pending investigation. A murmur ripples wide and low. Vendors glance at one another. Someone starts packing up a fryer. A mom pulls her kid from the line. The drum line falters. Alvarez reads, jaw set. That seal's wrong, she says, voice even. Someone photocopied a header. Calmly keep serving. I'm calling the state now. Too late. The PA crackles in the gazebo. A voice, distorted through tinny speakers. For your safety, the Cedar Ridge Harvest Festival is suspended. Please exit in an orderly fashion. Heads snap up. On the gazebo roofline, a man in a hooded jacket stands beside a little black speaker box and lifts a bullhorn. Rafe. He doesn't bother with the hood after all. He wants the photo. Neighbors, he calls, voice syrupy. I tried to warn you. These folks put your families at risk. Check your leaflets. This is real. Booth holders freeze between pride and fear. The mayor looks around, unsure which way to point his hands. A cop jogs toward the gazebo stairs, but a knot of onlookers clogs the way. Sophie doesn't blink. She turns the griddle down, unplugs nothing, and steps onto a milk crate. She lifts the same thermometer and the other hand, palm out. "Hey!" she calls, without the PA, and somehow it carries. "We passed inspection Tuesday. Our temp logs are posted. Our sinks are plumbed. If you ate our pancakes this morning and didn't die on contact, you're fine." A laugh breaks, blessed and human. It buys her 9 seconds. Jules grabs a Sharpie and a poster board from Vanessa's table. Big letters. Fast. "Inspect us. Right now. On camera." She holds it up to the crowd and to the live stream Marty just started from his phone. Comments pop like popcorn. "Do it. Call his bluff. We see you, Rafe." Alvarez is on speakerphone with a woman who sounds like command. "State Health," the voice says. "No order was issued. That document's counterfeit. Officers are en route to confiscate and preserve his evidence." Jules echoes it, loud enough to get to the gazebo. "Fake order. State is on the way." Rafe smiles like a snake in a petting zoo. Of course she'd say that. He purrs through the bullhorn. "But if you want the real truth, meet me by the river in 10. I've got video that changes everything." He points the bullhorn at Vanessa's table, including who walked out and why. Gasps like a string of firecrackers. Head swivel to Vanessa. She stands very still, cheeks chalky, hands on the edge of the card table like it's the only solid thing she has. Gabe steps forward, eyes on Rafe. "Leave her out of your mouth." Rafe laughs into his plastic cone. "You didn't say that when you wrote her a threat." Gabe flinches. The letter. He thought it died in a drawer. Alvarez is already texting. "Do not engage. We'll seize the speaker." A second cop reaches the gazebo stairs and is blocked by folding chairs. Denise slips to Jules's elbow. If he pulls people to the bank, we lose the crowd and the narrative. Her pen taps like an anxious woodpecker. "You want his show or ours?" "Our grill," Sophie says. "Our rules." Jules raises the poster board higher. "We're not meeting anyone under a bridge," she says, voice clear as a bell. "We'll do it right here. Health logs on the table. Thermometer checks on the live stream. If you want to see our truth, bring your phone and your questions." A sound grows from the band kids. First a beat on a snare, then a roll, then the whole drum line kicks in, loud and joyful, drowning the bullhorn. Someone yanks the gazebo power strip. The PA coughs and dies. The drone dips, confused, and zips upriver. Rafe switches tactics. He jogs down the stairs with a backpack slung over one shoulder. He moves through the crowd like a rumor, heading not toward the diner's line, but straight toward Vanessa's little table, hand already fishing in the bag for a tablet. Vanessa doesn't run. She looks up at him, and then past him to her daughters. Sophie shakes her head once. "Don't take his stage." Jules taps her phone and flips the live stream to front camera. Rafe lands in front of the table and slaps the tablet down. A video fills the screen. Date stamped. Dim. A kitchen at night. A woman sobbing into the crook of her arm while a man's voice off camera says, "If you won't get help, I'll do whatever it takes." The angle is wrong. It's not their kitchen. The audio is clipped. It's bait. "Here it is," Rafe crows. "Proof." The crowd tightens, a wavering ring. Gabe's knuckles go white around a spatula. Alvarez is talking fast into her radio now, feet already moving. The snare drum tap tap taps like a countdown. Sophie steps off the milk crate, shoulders squared, and walks straight toward the table, toward Rafe, toward the tablet and the 50 phones pointed like flashlights at a cave. Play it, she says. Rafe's thumb hovers. The first frame jumps, and a siren whoops at the edge of the green. The whoop of the siren ricochets off the brick storefronts. Two cruisers nose onto the grass, lights washing the gazebo in red and blue. Officer Alvarez is already moving, voice clipped into her radio. Unit 3, cut the PA. Unit 4, keep people off the stairs. Rafe's thumb hovers over his tablet. He wants the reveal. He wants the gasp. Alvarez gets there first. She reaches across Vanessa's table, palms flat. Sir, that's evidence. Step back. Her partner unplugs the battery pack, hidden behind the gazebo banister. The fake PA dies with a sad crackle. Evidence? Rafe sneers. The evidence is right. Here, interrupts a new voice. A woman in a navy blazer, state badge on a lanyard, steps from the second cruiser carrying a hard case. Dana Patel, State Health. We did not issue any shutdown. Those leaflets are counterfeit. She lifts one, holds it up to the camera on Marty's live stream. Wrong seal, wrong typeface, wrong statute. A collective exhale ripples through the green. Vendors stop packing. The drum line finds its beat again, soft at first, then bolder. Jules doesn't waste the air they just bought. Ms. Patel, she says, we invited you live. Inspect us, on camera, every temp, every sink. Let our neighbors see what we do. Patel nods once, businesslike. Let's do it. They turn the griddle back up. Marty swings his phone to follow. Sophie narrates, hand wash sink, hot water at 113, quat sanitizer at 300 ppm, eggs coming off at 168. Bacon, go ahead, Dana. Patel probes a pan, glances at the digital readout, gives a small, satisfied smile. You're good. Logs. Jules spreads the binder like a magician pulling out scarves. Initials, timestamps, corrective actions. Patel flips, nods. She turns to the crowd. They're compliant. Applause breaks like daylight. Someone starts, "We love you, Diner!" And kids echo it, because kids will chant anything joyful if you let them. Rafe sees the momentum pivot and lunges for his tablet. Alvarez is there, steady as a porch. Sir, I'm seizing this under probable cause. Those flyers? Also seized. She nods to a younger officer who is already collecting the gray confetti into evidence bags. Rafe barks a humorless laugh. You can't arrest a headline, sweetheart. Good thing I'm not, Alvarez says. Raphael Pierce, you're being detained for fraud, disorderly conduct, and operating a drone in a restricted area without a permit. Hands behind your back. He tries to pull free. Not enough to be dramatic, just enough to look wrong. The cuffs click anyway. The crowd doesn't cheer. It just exhales. People don't love a takedown. They love a weight lifted. But before Alvarez can steer him toward the cruiser, he jerks his chin at Vanessa. You want to talk about weights? Ask America's favorite absentee mom why she really left. Or maybe roll the clip. He grins at Gabe. You remember the letter cook? Threatening to take the kids? Real warm. Gabe flushes. He opens his mouth and then closes it. Jules feels that old drop in her gut, the kind that shows up when someone you love is about to say something clumsy and true on a live stream that will live forever. Vanessa saves him. She steps forward, hands shaking, and turns so her voice isn't to Rafe, but to the crowd. There is a video, she says, and her steadiness is a miracle. It was shot without my consent while I was in crisis. It's edited to make a plea for help sound like a threat. I can't control what he plays. I can tell you the whole story. She looks at her daughters, and for a heartbeat, she is just a woman deciding whether to step into the scariest room she knows. She steps. After the twins were born, she says, I had postpartum depression that turned into psychosis. I heard things. I believed things that weren't real. I left because my brain wasn't mine. Gabe, she looks at him, called 911 that night because he thought I would hurt myself. The man's voice you'll hear on that video is a dispatcher, not a threat. We've spent months in therapy since. I'm not asking you to like me. I am asking you not to let a stranger sell you my worst night. Silence, and then an older woman near the front, white hair in a braid, Harvest Queen sash from who knows when, says clearly, my daughter had it. It's real. Another, mine too. Vanessa breathes. The sign on her card table, you're not broken, you're exhausted, feels less like a slogan and more like a bridge. Rafe tries for one last swing. Cute monologue, he snorts. But your cook still wrote a... Gabe lifts his chin. I wrote a letter to our lawyer, he says, voice steady, if a little raw. After you doxed our address. It said if you sent another stranger to our door, I'd file for a protective order. That's the threat. I was protecting them. That's my job. The comment feed floods. As he should. Protect your family. Postpartum is no joke. Drone guy is done. Patel closes her hard case. Cedar Ridge Diner, she says into Marty's phone. Passes inspection. She turns to the crowd. As for the fake order, if you received one, bring it to Officer Alvarez. Manufacturing state documents is a felony. Alvarez tips her chin. And if you've got video of this gentleman dropping them with a drone, she adds dryly, I like evidence. The drumline swells. A little boy in a pumpkin shirt asks Jules if the pancakes are still free. Always, Jules says, and hands him a paper boat piled high. People surge back toward the tables, toward the griddle, toward what feels safe. For the next hour, the green is music and butter and relief. The tip jar overflows. 2 moms sign up for Vanessa's Tuesday group. Denise finally exhales. You just turned a panic attack into a public service announcement, she says, amazed. Not the first time, Sophie murmurs, smiling into the steam. When the last plate is scraped and the last tent tied, the light has gone that soft October honey. Jules walks a tray of leftovers to the river for the volunteers. Ray, hairline sunburned, eyes bright in that way that makes him look like all the years were worth it, joins them with a thermos of coffee. You did good, he says simply. We didn't burn the town down, Sophie says. He bumps her shoulder. Low bar, you cleared it. Alvarez strolls over, jacket off, tie loosened. State's taking the tablet, she reports. There's metadata. There's also an email chain with someone paying Mr. Pierce to shake your brand. Jules feels a new weight tap her shoulder. Who? Alvarez's smile is thin. We'll know soon. For now, sleep. Let me do my job. They pack in the last folding chair. The green is almost empty, just a rectangle of trampled grass where the pancake line lived all day and the faint smear of syrup on a kid's sneaker print. Jules's phone buzzes. Unknown number. One line. Enjoy the win. Next time, I won't miss. She shows Alvarez, who takes a photo, unfazed. Add it to the file. Sophie looks at the river. It carries the day away, slow and certain. Let him try, she says. But there's a shiver in it, the kind you only feel when you're finally still. Back at the diner, lights low, chairs up on tables. Vanessa wipes a clean counter that doesn't need it. I can go, she says quietly, if being near me makes it worse. Jules turns out the neon open sign, leaving their reflection in the glass. 3 women, same eyes, different histories. It's worse when we don't tell the truth, she says. We're done with hiding. Sophie locks the door. Tomorrow, she says, we feed whoever shows up. And on Tuesday, we sit in a circle at the library and tell the hard parts. Ray flips the deadbolt and rubs his shoulder like a man who carried too much and would carry it again. And if somebody tries to turn off the lights, he says, half to them, half to the empty booths, we'll just cook in the dark. Outside, across Main, a black SUV idles 2 blocks back, lights off. The driver's phone glows blue for a moment, then goes dark. The harvest banner creaks once in a late breeze, and the river keeps its own counsel. At dawn, the neon over the front window is still asleep. Jules is refilling the sugar pourers when knuckles rap on the glass. Officer Alvarez, coffee in one hand, a manila folder in the other. Good news and a headache, she says, as Jules flips the deadbolt. Rafe Pierce sang like a choir boy. He was paid through a shell called Oak & Pike Strategies. She taps the folder. Owned by Callaway Urban. Sophie's spatula stills. Brent Callaway? The hotel guy? Same, Alvarez says. There's also a draft of remarks he planned to read at next week's planning meeting about public safety and health violations to push a condemnation vote. You've got that hearing at 7 tonight, right? Jules nods. We'll be there. Bring your binder, Alvarez says, half a smile, and your crowd. By noon, word has moved faster than bacon grease on a hot plate. Marty pins the meeting link to every neighborhood group. Denise tapes a flyer by the register. Town hall tonight. Show up for Cedar Ridge. Vanessa prints extras and hands them out with pie like their communion. Gabe unties his apron at 5. I can cover the line if you want me to stay, he says, trying to sound casual. We'll lock up early, Jules says. Come with us. The council chamber smells like old upholstery and winter coats. The room is full. Teachers, plumbers, the drumline kids in hoodies clutching sticks like talismans. A reporter from Channel 8 sets up a tripod in the aisle. Marty goes live from the back row, captioned, Rezoning Showdown. Brent Callaway sits front and center in a navy suit the color of money under overcast sky. He has a folder of renderings of a boutique hotel with people the color of catalogs laughing at lattes. He looks at Jules and Sophie, the way you'd look at a pothole you plan to pave over. The chair raps a gavel. Item 7. Petition by Callaway Urban to rezone parcels on Main for commercial redevelopment. Brent stands, voice smooth enough to skate on. Madam Chair, members, Cedar Ridge needs tax base. My team brings jobs, tourists, vitality. We all saw the public health chaos this week. We cannot let sentimentality keep unsafe operators on prime real estate. Sophie almost laughs, an incredulous puff of air. But Jules tightens her hand around the binder. Madam Chair, Alvarez says from the side aisle. Before you hear further, the department requests to enter evidence. 2 officers wheel in a cart. The seized tablet, clear evidence bags of gray confetti, and a printed chain of emails with Oak & Pike's logo at the top. Alvarez keeps her voice neutral. We recovered purchase orders for a drone, a large format printer, and a list of downtown businesses to target with counterfeit health notices. Payment came from Oak & Pike. Corporate records, filed yesterday in a hurry but not fast enough. Trace ownership to Callaway Urban. She clicks a remote. The projector splashes the email headers across the wall. Brent doesn't blink. Anyone can fake an email. Dana Patel lifts a hand. State health can't fake this, she says, stepping forward. We inspected the diner on Saturday. They were in full compliance. The only public health risk I saw was paper cuts from illegal notices. A few people snort. The chair turns to Jules. Ms. Hart. Ms. Hart. She still mixes them up. Twins are everyone's kryptonite. You asked to speak. Jules stands, knees a little wobbly, voice steady anyway. Our grandparents hung that neon. Our dad flipped eggs under it for 30 years. If Brent wants jobs, we've got them. 8 paychecks, health insurance for full-timers, 2 kids we hired after graduation who would have moved away. If he wants a story about public safety, here's mine. She looks at Vanessa. This town held my family together while we learned how to talk about postpartum and trauma without shame. We're not a blight. We're a reason to stay. Sophie lifts the binder. Not like a weapon, like proof. Logs, permits, payroll, and 200 signatures from people who ate pancakes while we were inspected live. Marty swivels to show the crowd. Hands go up like a forest. Brent tries a new angle. Anecdotes are sweet, but progress... Rafe's voice cuts in from the second row, thin and hoarse. He's in county khaki, flanked by a deputy. Progress doesn't pay my retainer, Brent, he says, and the room tilts. Tell them what you promised. A bonus when the diner shut down. You told me, make them look dirty. Cedar Ridge loves a scandal. Mr. Pierce, the chair warns, but the words are already out there. Sticky as syrup. Alvarez leans into the mic. Madam Chair, the DA has opened a fraud investigation. We request a continuance on any land use decisions until that's resolved. The chair confers down the dais, then straightens. Motion to deny rezoning on grounds of active criminal investigation, community detriment, and insufficient mitigation plan. All in favor? Hands go up. 1, 2, all. The gavel falls. Motion carries. The room doesn't erupt. It breathes. Relief is a quieter thing than rage when you've been holding it for months. People clap, then stand, then start hugging the nearest friend. Brent's jaw works like he's chewing gravel. He collects his renderings, pages suddenly cheap without their future. Outside, on the steps, the October air feels brand new. Denise blurts, "Cider at the diner?" It becomes a parade. Paper cups steaming, kids shaking their sticks into rhythms again, just because their hands need to do something. Vanessa lingers at the edge. I don't want to make this about me, she says, eyes on the stream of neighbors filtering toward the neon. But thank you for not letting him sell my worst moment. Jules squeezes her hand. Come back Tuesday, she says. Bring the hard stuff. We'll save you a chair. Ray stands with Alvarez near the curb. 2 stubborn people inventing a grudging friendship. You did good, officer, he says. You all did, she answers. It's easier to do my job when a town knows who it is. Later, in the quiet, after the cups are tossed, and the grill is cleaned, and the neon hums again, Gabe sets a plate on the pass. A pancake in the shape of a heart, lopsided and perfect. Corny, Jules says, but she's smiling. Occupational hazard, he says, suddenly nervous. I don't have a speech. I don't have a plan. I just... He exhales. I love you. All of you. The girls, your dad, the way you stand up in rooms that try to shrink you. We don't have to decide anything tonight. I just want you to know. Sophie leans on the counter. That was almost a speech, she says, eyes warm. Jules reaches across and hooks a finger into the tie of his apron. We build slow, she says, day by day. They eat the pancake with their fingers like teenagers and laugh when the syrup runs. Weeks turn into a winter with snow that makes Main Street look like a postcard. The Planning Commission awards a grant to restore the old mill instead of tearing it down. In spring, the diner opens a second room in the mill with big windows over the river and a small stage where Tuesday nights become warm plates, real talk, part open mic, part support circle, part miracle. Vanessa co-facilitates with a therapist from the clinic. There's a basket of coloring pages for kids and a corner shelf with hand-me-down board books. Nobody whispers postpartum anymore. They just say it. Brent pleads out to a slap on the wrist and a black eye in the court of public opinion. Oak and Pike dissolves in a blizzard of paperwork no one reads. Rafe does community service sweeping floors at the community theater and learns the only thing worse than cleaning up someone else's confetti is cleaning up your own. Ray and Denise get married in the diner on a Sunday afternoon with pie instead of cake. Marty live streams it because of course he does. The drum line sneaks in a second-line parade around the booths. It is the opposite of dignified and exactly right. On a warm June night, a woman from the Tuesday group comes in with a new baby and a new laugh. She orders the postpartum special. Eggs, any style, extra toast, sit as long as you need, and leaves with a bag of diapers someone else brought just in case. Jules watches from the pass, feels something unclench. The river slides by like a promise. On the wall by the door, between the permit to operate and a Polaroid of Ray in a paper crown, hangs a framed scrap of newsprint from the week after the vote. Marty's headline reads, "Small town says no to bullies, yes to breakfast." Someone penciled underneath, "We flip more than pancakes. Closing time. Chairs go up. The sign flips. The neon open stays on a beat longer, then clicks to a soft hum. Outside, the gazebo is just a gazebo again. The banner doesn't creak. The SUV is gone. Sophie locks the door and pockets the key, a weight that feels like a privilege. "You think it ever gets easy?" she asks, not really expecting an answer. Jules checks the burners, the lids, the list for morning. "No," she says, smiling at the impossibly steady river. "But it keeps being worth it." Gabe flips the deadbolt and turns off the last light. In the window, the three of them are just silhouettes, with syrup in their veins and grease in their hair, the kind of people who know how to feed a town and each other. Ray pulls the door from the outside to make sure it caught. It does. He pats the frame like the hood of an old truck that still starts every time. "Okay," he says to the quiet street, to the buckled bricks, to the sign that has seen more hearts than any ledger. "See you in the morning." The river keeps its own counsel. The diner keeps its own light.